know what a raging mobile and internet gaming has become in the recent times. I never imagined that we would be seeing advertisements for mobile games on the mainstream television. Such path-breaking times we live in. So for our next session, we have Mr. Sachin Uppal. Sachin is the Chief Marketing Officer at Play Games24x7, the largest provider of online and mobile games in India. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sachin Uppal.
Now, what is the fundamental requirement that most of the businesses have? I know Kunal had a very different approach to a lot of things that he talked about, and so I'm not getting into that. But largely we are looking at high LTV and low CPA, which basically maximizes the profitability of your business. So then the next question comes that where do you invest more? Like, should you invest more in acquisition or should you invest more in retention? Should retention be focused on early on, or should retention be looked at a later stage? First, let's acquire users. I want to talk about an interesting story over here, right? In 2009, when I joined Play Games, we were very early on, like things were not structured at that time, and we were figuring things out, right? And at that point of time, I said, what, we need a retention program, right? And we had just started acquiring users. This was March of 2009. We had just gone live with a payment gateway and so on and so forth. And I said, we want a retention program, right? And everybody was like, what retention, what's happening, like. And so, I studied the gaming market at that point of time, and I said, the retention program is extremely important. People are spending money with us. They are losing money with us. The only way to keep people happy is give them a social status, right? Like, and that's where we started the first retention program. Now, the first retention program actually was running out of my Excel sheet. So we had like a full website running, but there was no integration between the retention program that we were running at that time with the actual website. So I had like a Excel sheet running where I segmented people based on their spending into different clubs, and the technology team had no clue that we have a retention program. So it is that important for us that we started off without having like a proper system, and today, of course, we have like a detailed 25-member team just dedicated to retention. Let me talk a little bit about how to decide where to spend more, whether it is acquisition or retention. To kind of show it in simple graphs, I've put few graphs together to show that how retention and acquisition work together, and how it is so important to bring both these things together, right? So what you see here, right, the orange line is the CPA, or the cost of acquisition. Over the past 2 years, it is going down for us, right? And on the other hand, what you see over here is the revenue per user, which is going up, right? Now think of this, right? Think of this, and I'm going to show you subsequent slides where I'll show you the scale at which we are operating and how fast we are growing, right? If, let's say that this was not happening, if the average revenue per user was not going up, or the cost of acquisition was not going down, it will slow our growth, right? It will slow our growth because it will suck more money out of the system. The break-even periods will become much worse, and hence reduce your profitability, right? Now, let's look at this, right? This is a graph showing spends and paid user growth. So what you see on the in the last 1 year, right? You can see there is a massive growth over here where there is a spends are increasing, your paid user volume is increasing, and in the previous slide I showed you that the cost of acquisition is actually coming down, and the average revenue per user is going up, right? I know these are unheard of situations, but that's all happening, and it's not by magic, right? Like, it's not by viral growth or crossing your fingers and hoping that it will happen. It's all engineered, it's all dedicated focus both on acquisition and on retention, right? This is the revenue and player growth, right? So The broad point I wanted to make through these slides was that, if you are focusing only on one part of the business, that is either acquisition or retention, right? It doesn't work. You have to spend on both, factors, which is acquisition and retention, because that will give you massive growth opportunities and that will help you scale significantly higher. I've just kept it, for 2 years data over here. Like, if I was to put from 2009 onwards, it would give you that hockey curve, which most of the businesses get from. This basically is a gross LTV movement over D30, D60, and D90. And what you see over here is, fairly steady gross LTVs in early stages, like, till the D90. Just to clean up the graph, like, these are, I know these look like straight lines, but at the scale at which we are operating right now, maintaining these lines, having these lines stay straight while your scale is growing up is a massive challenge, right? We've been able to achieve that primarily because of a lot of effort that we put on our retention activities, so on and so forth. This is D0 and D7 retention. Essentially, like what we've seen is that, if your early retention is solid, if when people walk in, when they start playing the game, if they retain well on the day 0, day 1 till day 7, there is a high likelihood that they're gonna stick around with you, right? So these retention graphs are showing, like, even despite all the scale that I showed you, these metrics are holding up and staying pretty steady. This is a cleaned up slide for that previous one. All right, so now quickly moving on to, what does the acquisition team does. Like, there are a lot of channels that the acquisition team is advertising on. It includes referrals, it includes paid marketing, it includes word of mouth, everything put together. People sign up, they make a deposit on the website, and then they start playing. The job of the retention team is essentially, to maximize the lifetime value. So as the person makes a deposit, they play a cash game on the website or the app. And that's where, where the retention kicks in, where they build in loops to bring people back over and over again, so that they can continue to deposit over and over again and continue to play cash games. Once they run out of money, they deposit again, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to talk about, because this is engagement and this is about retention. So I'm going to talk about how, how focusing on retention actually, helps you in scaling your acquisition or scaling other, metrics for your business, like your profitability and so on and so forth. And why retention is like so important for us as a fundamental part of our business model. Which is essentially your maximizing your LTV. The second thing, which is very helpful, is the network effect that retention generates, and lastly, the competitive advantage, which is through loyalty and rewards, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, this is a busy slide, so ignore the bottom part for a moment. Let's just focus on the top part, right? Why is it fundamental, right? And if, let's say, you start spending on acquisition, there are two kind of things that you can look at. One, you say, I'm going to operate on a cost per sale model. Like, I'll pay 10 rupees or 50 rupees to get a transaction. That transaction gives me a margin of 50 rupees, and that's about it. Like, I spent this much, I got this much. It's very hard to scale, right? Or you get into discounting, or you get into cashbacks, and that's where the money starts bleeding, right? We never got into that philosophy. Our simple philosophy was that we are operating this business if we are profitable, otherwise we are not, right? And within 15 months of our operations, we became cash flow positive, and within 18 months, we were profitable, right? And since then, we've been growing 100% year on year, and we have been massively profitable. Now, why that is the case, right? The fundamental reason is that we focused on predicting the lifetime value of a customer, right? That once you start predicting the lifetime value of a customer and look at that data for a long period of time, right, you are able to, with a very high certainty, say that, this customer or this cohort of customers is going to generate this much revenue for you, right? And that allows you to continue to spend on acquisition, uh, which will drive growth for you, and in parallel spend on retention, which will drive growth for you. Uh, so essentially, whatever money that you have, you can continue to reinvest and scale faster. This is just an example of, how when you look at your monthly retention rates and the average revenue per user, just a sample example of how we, this is not how we calculate player lifetime value, but this is a fairly simplified version of how you generate, how do you calculate the player lifetime value. In summary, what I want to say is this, right? That higher higher player lifetime value or a faster break-even period is going to allow you to spend higher, which is allowing you to scale your business. So if your retention kicks in at the right time, if your retention is ensuring that your retention rates are high, your ARPUs are high, both things are helping you to expand your marketing, right? Which is where your scale comes in, and that's how you are able to scale your businesses profitably. Another very very interesting thing that retention helps with is network effects. Uh, so let's say more the users are in the system, right? The wait time for players goes down, which basically means that I press a play now button and I have a player waiting for me, instantly. Now, now, there are two currencies that we are talking about, right? Which is trust and the time. If you are optimizing for this, you are saving consumers time, right? And hence you are increasing the revenue per minute from the user. The second is we can give out big cash prizes because of that. Higher the number of people with us, higher the tournaments that we can run, higher the number of participants, and higher the revenue that we are able to make. And of course it generates trust because people see that there are thousands and thousands of players in real time playing over there, right? So uh, that helps in building the liquidity loop for us, which continues for us for scaling. The third part was where retention kicks in is the loyalty and rewards program, right? It helps you building a competitive advantage. Essentially, what it does is we launched this program several years back. We rebranded it, called it Rummy Rewards. Essentially it gives you a social status, so you are spending a lot of money on the platform. There are different clubs from bronze, silver, gold to platinum elite. uh, while giving you a social status on the platform, it also rewards you for your gameplay, right? Like, so depending on how much money that you're spending and how much revenue you're generating, basis that you get rewarded. And then there are incentives which are different for each of the clubs, so you genuinely feel privileged about it. And the last one being flexible options to withdraw or receive your rewards, right? So we have like a bunch of methods. Like you can convert your rewards into money, or you can use it as a ticket to a tournament, or you can use it as a bonus, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to quickly skip this one. I'm running short on time. The idea is that there are loyalty points and rewards, which are the mechanics for driving growth. All right, let me now talk about various tactics of retention. Right, I've tried to classify it into three key heads: economic, behavioral, and communication. Uh, so what we've seen is that any major impact that comes in, which actually moves things in terms of revenue for you, are largely economic uh, or behavioral. In economic, like there are various tactics like bonuses, cashbacks, and discounts. Uh, we try to keep them as revenue linked so that we are not bleeding on that, and we are not losing profitability because of that. Then we have tournaments, and I'll quickly talk about it a little later. And then reward points, which are financial gratification. On behavior, we have like various experiments that we do on priming, where before asking you to take an action, we train your brain with a certain different information. anchoring, which is like, where you change the normal behavior by changing the standard deposit values, persona, personalization. So, if that, let's say that, I was to ask you to design a tournament and I ask you that, would you want to give a big cash prize or would you want to, have a guaranteed cash prize? Uh, sure. All right. And so, how do you decide, like, which one to go about? And then you have loyalty points, and then standard segmentation techniques like demographic, technology, communication, standard stuff. Uh, I'm gonna run faster here. So let me get to a case study how we gamified our tournaments. Uh, so during IPL, like, it becomes a big challenge. People don't show up because people are watching IPL. So we created a gamified tournament structure where you get a ticket to a big tournament, and every single day, if you miss joining that, if you are not winning a ticket, every single day there is an incremental value that we are adding by adding loyalty points and cashbacks and additional stuff. What did it do? It helped in increasing the overall active player engagement by 2.38% and incremental ROI of 77%. Bonuses I've already talked about. So one of the case studies, which is where we are headed in most of our business areas is that, early high churn rates, right? People come and they leave and they never show back, right? So what we did was, we essentially built a model. That model basically started predicting that these people are gonna disappear tomorrow. So we took that segment and we separated out people who were most likely to come back. We didn't touch them, and the people who were gonna not come back, we basically broke them into two groups. So what you see over here, right, fence sitter A and fence sitter B, is the essential A/B test between the model predicted outcomes, and we gave them an offer where we said, okay, come back tomorrow and you are gonna get 200% bonus, and this offer is only for just one day. So instead of doling business things out for everyone, we are now using data science to do predictions and only focus on segments where you can maximize your results. These were the outcomes. We had an improvement of retention by 9.3%. 3.2% was the overall improvement in retention and 62% return on investment. This is a fairly, like, small value. And that's about it. Thank you, guys.